our first recipe of quarantine coconut flour banana bread. To get started, you take 4 bananas and peel those into a bowl, like so. And while I'm here, I don't want to forget to mention, don't forget to wash your hands before you do this, because safety first. Especially with all the germ talk these days. So you take your 4 bananas. My husband likes to buy them when they're 3 pounds for 99 cents. He's the best. And then I have plenty of bananas to make dessert with. And they're a natural sweetener, so we like this. Try to keep down the sugar. Next, you smash them in your bowl. I kind of just chop them up with this thing a little bit before I start smashing them with the whisk. And smash them. You can also do this in your food processor, which is really, really fast. This will take a few minutes to get done. And if you hear the birds, they're chirping in the background because they love jazz music. So once your bananas are about like this, kind of soupy, a little bit, it's kind of like chunky banana baby food. As you can see here, you're able to stir it. You're going to want to take your coconut flour and add that slowly into the mix while you're stirring. I use 3/4 cup of coconut flour. You use less coconut flour than regular flour when you are making a recipe, and you have to add extra egg so it binds together like regular flour a little bit better. That is one of the tips. Otherwise you have banana pancake and it's really hard and not pleasant to eat. So once you get your 3/4 cup of that mixed in, you start on the eggs. It's going to be a little bit lumpy, as you see here, kind of dry. For this recipe, we take 5 eggs. I have 1 already pre-cracked here, and then you get your 4 more eggs and crack those in. A lot of really great chefs recommend don't crack it on the bowl, crack it on the countertop, whatever you prefer, as long as you don't get egg shell in there. I'm still personally a huge fan of cracking them on the bowl, but if you give it a good confident whack on the counter, it does a good job too. And sometimes I still drop them in there. So make sure you fish those out before you start baking. Otherwise you'll have some broken teeth before it's over. So you're going to want to start mixing the eggs in to the flour and banana. This is going to take just a little bit to get some more of the lumps out. And it's going to start looking like this. It seems like there's a lot of eggs in there. That's normal because you have to add extra egg for the coconut flour. And it'll start looking kind of like this when you're almost done. Some recipes call for coconut sugar. I personally didn't have any of that today, so I'm going to use 1/4 cup of my old honey that's kind of sugared a little bit. So that's a great way to use your honey that's sugared in a baking recipe, because you'll be mixing it completely throughout. So we have our 1/4 cup of honey in there. Start mixing it in. Then we do about 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. However, I chose to use pumpkin pie spice this time because it has some ginger and clove in there and adds a nice flavor. You can always put a little bit more than a teaspoon if you like a really spicy pumpkin bread. You don't have to measure that ingredient. It's not super important. Next, you want to add a teaspoon of baking soda. And this you're going to want to measure because it's really important when it comes to the chemical reaction in your baked goods. And if you put too much, it'll be too poofy and not dense enough, and if you don't put enough, it'll be really dense. So make sure that is well mixed throughout your bowl. and then about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Try to use the fine salt because it will break down faster in your batter. And finally, about 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is another ingredient I don't really measure. I like to add a little extra. Just a splash will do you. And we'll stir that in. Now we have our batter all ready to go. It looks a bit like this. There's still a few chunks, that's okay. It's banana bread, so you want it to have the banana flavor. And then you have the option of adding nuts now in your mix. You can also add granola, things like that. I'm gonna save mine for the top, just for added texture when you eat it. So after that, you're gonna take your 9x5 loaf pan. I have lined it with some wax paper. It's much better to use parchment paper, but we're in quarantine and this is all I had. So you will take your bowl of banana bread and your handy spatula and pour it in. You're going to want to bake this in the 350-degree oven for about 45 to 55 minutes. It's a loaf, it takes a long time because you have the height there on your baked good. Make sure you test this before you take it out of the oven, because sometimes with a loaf pan you are going to find that you didn't cook it the whole way through. Once that's done, make sure it's spread evenly in your pan. You can give it a little shake like this and top it off with your nuts. Today we chose to use some unsalted almonds. They're raw and they will kind of get toasted in the oven, so they'll taste really good by the time we're done. Next, you're going to want to head over to your preheated oven at 350 degrees and pop it inside. And don't forget to set your timer for about 40 minutes. You're going to want to check it 5 minutes early.